see. We know how dominant. So NIP is starting on defense. Oh, god damn it, Flores. Come on. NIP is starting on defense. We know how dominant they are on this map overall. So likely we'll be going to AVG as their first site, of course. Of the 18 rounds of that they've played in the last few months, they won 15 of them. So I just wanted to set up expectations for what our first site is probably going to look like. That's just going to be the next operator ban to come through. Now we move on to the defending ones. Flores and Thatcher, the exact same ones that we had just a couple of games ago back on Curse LAN. You okay?
Am I okay? Are you okay?
You know what? Compared, like, between the first and second games, I've eaten a lot of food. And I think it's just boosted.
The difference maker.
I think so.
The raisins done the job.
I did have a lot of raisins. I had to text my flatmate to ask him to go and buy me some food because I didn't have any in the house, and we don't get very long breaks. So I was like, I don't want to die by the end of the broadcast, you know? So I asked him to go buy me some raisins. Apparently they've done the job.
Are raisins over or underrated?
Oh, they're highly underrated because raisins are one of those controversial foods like tomatoes. Like, a lot of people don't like them. So
I wouldn't say that tomatoes is controversial. I'm
really,
much more of a sultana person.
No, because when it comes to grapes, red grapes are the superior grape. White grapes are the worst grape. It goes red grapes, then black grapes, then white grapes.
True.
So it makes sense the raisins better than sultanas. I can't believe you don't think tomatoes are controversial.
I don't know. It might just be the people that I know and people that I've grown up with have never really been a point of contention. Isn't a humble tomato.
Oh my goodness.
Let's get into the game.
Yeah.
So we do have some bans, and maybe it was worth speaking about at the time, but we've got a little bit of time here that we can do that with. We do have Thatcher, why am I banned from Black Dragons? Flores has been banned by Ninjas in Pyjamas along with the Valkyrie. That is no fun at all. Not getting to see Flores here. And even when he's available, we're not really getting to see him play too much. I'm just itching to see how he integrates. And Villa is a map that you just know that Flores is going to do well on. Hence, I guess, NIP's ban here as they start off on the defense. They're going to want a nice, easy time of things of keeping control of those deployable shields and power positions that they like to often hold. Especially when you're going to play mirror windows like this, extended all the way into statuary.
I think we should have an anti-coward rule where every team is forced to play the new operator. Yeah, no, full extension, as you say, and you can see that the attackers are posturing themselves around the outside of this north side. Perez actually to get the first kill onto Pino, and Pino is that big heavy hitter for NIP. So to have lost him early, that's pretty huge. It's also a C4 that's gone with him as well.
Perez, the young gunner, coming in there and taking down none other than Pino himself, a player that we've praised so far. Could it be an overshadowing? Is it a sign of things to come? Perez looking to advance that position and aggress a bit further over onto 90. For Toxie, he's going to be able to find himself a rotation kill onto Psycho. E1D is going to root the defenders in place, but there's only 3 of them left, and they're going to be occupying in and around the site. Julio going to feel the pinch and rotate through Vault, as that wall hasn't been fully reinforced into study.
Just opening up some of the soft walls so that he can throw out his C4 should he need to, as it looks like NIP are prepared for Black Dragons to come in through Aviator, but way that they've rotated, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the plan anymore. Muzi down below to catch out any rotations, but little does he know, all of these attackers are upstairs. He might be able to get in a nice shot through the wall or come up the red stairs behind, and that's the plan. He doesn't have the exact line of sight onto resets and is caught out for the troubles. And leaves just these last 2 remaining players for NIP.
Julio will find one onto Ion, as the plant was being attempted. Kamikaze does have some Toxic Babe canisters to work with, although he's just thrown the last one out there. He's Going to get pushed from both sides very shortly. Julio has live information as to a player peeking through into study, but Patoxy is a little bit quicker. Kamikaze there was always going to get swung. It was just a case of by whom. Perez is going to be one doing the swing in there as he finds not only the first kill in the round, but the last as well. Black Dragons are going to take an attacking round there onto Aviator Games.
Mate, they knew what they were doing. See? Chunks asked if they were going to be aiming for overtime. At this rate, no overtime needed. But that was a really nice attacking setup from Black Dragons. The way they came in through the north side, and even though NIP had set themselves up there, Black Dragons seemed to know that that was going to happen. And that first kill onto Pino, I think, was really pivotal, because Pino is certainly one of those players that's not afraid to run around the rest of the map, causing havoc later on. And to have him straight off, it totally weakens the hold that NIP were looking to have up on the north side of the map. You had to have them retreat, especially once they were down to just 3 remaining players. And they tried to hold each other's backs over by the site. Moozie's rotate up the red stairs, while it was smart, it was really, what would you even say, like under-informationed. He didn't have enough intel on what was happening in the red stairs, and I'm not sure that he was ready or prepared for resets to be holding the red stairs where he was. I think he maybe underestimated the fact that Black Dragons were expecting something like that. So for him to be caught out too, that was sort of the the trump card that NIP were looking to take, and suddenly they only have 2 people left on the site, and
yeah, losing out early is never a fun way to go. NIP, a team that consistently do very well from ahead as well. And usually it's, usually they're the ones that are finding that aggressive opening pick. But the time will come, I'm sure, as this time Pino will find the frag. Does take down Perez. It does come at a cost, though, as Muzi will fall, and Black Dragons are actually happy to just go toe-to-toe here and trade out man for man. Now, Black Dragons have lost an Iana and an Ashe, so essentially your 2 entries. On the side of NIP, again, they've lost Pino on that mute. For sure, the jammers are down. But it's a C4 that potentially isn't going to be put to any use now, as Julio still will have 1, but you've got to give the advantage to Black Dragons again there.
It's funny to me because it is the big aggro players on each side that have been taken down, and instantly the pace slowed. It's like, suddenly we've gone into slow motion because resets, Perez, Muzi, and Pino are off the board. Now, naturally, of course, you get to this part of the round and oftentimes does slow down because they need to start, regaining information about where everybody's repositioned, but it is just still funny how it works out the way. That was the final E1D that was available, and it's not actually going to find any information for Black Dragons, but Kamikaze might be giving away some information by the noise he's making. He takes a lot of damage for that fact, throws out a Toxic Babe canister so he can seek refuge back in Vault, knowing full well the Black Dragons are on their way. Ooh, Psycho's not going to chase it. I think that's good.
I mean, Psycho can't really afford to play too loose and fast here. The Vault wall is going to get open. Kamikaze, it's a great shot there onto Ion. Patoxy again with the trade, but Kamikaze from the Vault is going to do the business and keep his team firmly in this. Now they have an advantage. 2 versus 1. The diffuser is going to be outside the Vault as well. Patoxy still tried to push on through. He hasn't got any lifeline utility left. There's a Claymore in pocket, but it's not really going to come to that at this point. Goes for the swing, but is looking for the information. Julio, however, he had a red ping there. He knew exactly where to expect that coming from. A little bit closer, but NIP, they do manage to drag one back.
Kamikaze's positioning that he retook there in Vault was really good. The fact that he got away with his life with in the altercation that happened at the games room door, and retreated back deep within the site. And I think they had an idea that Black Dragons were going to try and open up Vault, because Black Dragons by that point, I think, had tried a number of different angles and not really yet committed to any. But it was certain that they weren't going to be coming in through from study, of course, because of just the approach of their attack. And I don't think they were going to look to come in through Aviator once again. especially after the previous round. So Kamikaze getting 2 very nice kills and forcing the diffuser to be dropped in 90. Again, we spoke about it earlier today, but once the diffuser's been dropped, as a defender, so much control is handed over to you because the attackers have really limited options for where they want to go then. It's great if you want to take a different route, but if you're not carrying the diffuser, what are you going to do? You're forcing yourself into a situation in which you would have to kill the defenders to get a win because you have no other option. So after that, it made it much easier for NIP. So great for Kamikaze there to put NIP in that position. And now they can finally move on to their secondary site of Trophy and Statuary.
This is where we're going to see a difference in the approach from Black Dragons. They're no longer going to be able to aggressively entry through the master bedroom. Instead, that entry is going to have to come elsewhere. NIP are fairly well spread out at this point. They do have players all over. Oh, Julio. The drone hole's worked for him, hasn't it? We saw him crouched and looking through that drone hole at a prone angle. But he's getting drone holed back. 1 health. Daren't move currently, as he's worried that the angle is still being held. Not a lot he can do from here. He's going to have to make the run at some point. Does manage to make that cross. An opening engagement has come at a bit of a cost.
I like the idea that he finally made it. He finally ran across and took the anger out on that globe that was right next to him.
Why wouldn't
obviously just smashing it so that he gets a better position where he wants to be and just making some room for himself, but, you know, still. The E1D, I think, did actually find someone, and the second one's going to be coming through as Psycho tries to move his yokai drone too. I think once he realized the Black Dragons weren't looking to make this engage in through Study, you want to put it somewhere more useful, and after stunning out or tagging out Toxie, there you go. You can actually gain something from the position of it, and as far as I'm aware, the yokai drone itself hasn't been taken down. Psycho should be able to find a second here, but actually Perez gets the better of him, takes a bunch of damage, but he's not going to be giving up the angle all too early.
Seeing the player cam, that Psycho wasn't too happy about that one, as maybe felt like he swung a little bit carelessly there. Julio now in a 1 versus 3, and he's still chunked down. Don't forget, he took a load of damage in the early part of the round. It's 1 bullet from Perez that's going to do the job. He's really coming in for his team now, as making a big impact on that entry, but being alive in the late part of the round. Perez really being there when it matters, and some careless challenges, some ego challenges there, you could argue, from the side of NIP.
I just find it so impressive, the fact that Perez and Resets seem to be these diamonds in the rough that have come in through tier 2, and they're challenging people like Pino and Muzi and Psycho and making it actually quite hard for them. And I think that those ego challenges, as you put them, are going to have to come to a rest. Both of these teams have to pay a lot of respect to each other, especially if they're going to continue playing the way that they have been so far in this game. And yeah, not trying to take the aggressive 1v1s with the, I don't want to say arrogance, because I think it's a little bit unfair. I don't think either of these teams are playing arrogantly, but it is very swingy.
You could see that Psycho wasn't happy, because you tend to get the player cam for a little bit longer than the player has been alive for. So you could see that he kind of wasn't happy with that challenge, and especially playing on the Echo. You know, you've likely got a yokai drone left. We were speculating as to whether the yokai was still alive in the top of the doorway. And it's just not something that you're going to be able to consistently do. You know, we've seen Resets and Perez be, you know, very skilled and be able to take these challenges in previous weeks, not just now and here and now against NIP. NIP, I'm not suggesting that they're meeting their match, but things aren't coming easy for them at the moment, and Black Dragons, they've got a bit of a lead. NIP need to make some adjustments here, because this one could run away from them a bit.
Down into kitchen. Perez is getting curious by the noises he's hearing over by main stairs. I'm going to step out too much. That was an unfortunate reloading time as Pino peeks at the perfect moment. And he doesn't really care that he's getting droned out. So he returns over to Memorial. sets himself up. NIP are very good at knowing when to recall their roamers. As soon as they find what it is they're looking for, they're very happy to move back towards the site and be ready to support each other, rather than being too overzealous with their roam game.
And that's a play style and something that NIP need to really live up to in this game, because a little bit of aggression that gets dealt with by Black Dragons could really start to shut them down. They've got the opening kill now, and they need to relax into that, and that seems to be what they're doing so far. Reset's going to take a little bit of damage as Live looks to push on up as well, waiting for the Lion scan, and it is going to give him the intel. Burns the Aruni gate, goes for the push through, but just instead takes the default out. Player has dropped the hatch, so a little bit too little too late, but how he's got through Ion and Resets there is a little bit of a mystery.
Okay, I was gonna say, it feels like quite a bit of time has gone before someone's gone down, and almost on cue, Toxie takes Muzi. 4 versus 4. NIP are ready at all of these entrances through which the players of Black Dragons could enter, anticipating what they could do. Kamikaze is the next to fall, as Iron gets him, and that was that player that you said was almost being ignored.
Resets will find the frag over. Sorry, Psycho will find the frag over onto Resets, leveling things up. Julio from inside of the pantry. He's on the frost, so there could be a frost mat out somewhere, and you'd hate for someone to get caught in that at this stage. But Toxie, he's able to take down Pino. Julio pushes on up aggressively. He's got the heads up. He knows exactly where these last 2 players are. Psycho gets into the engagement with Live. Live hits the reload in the middle of no man's land, and eventually is swung upon. The C7E doing the damage there. Another tough situation for Black Dragons to find themselves in after, you know, not the most successful round, but another round where they had those opportunities.
There were a lot more backwards and forwards in this round, and it wasn't even necessarily a case of trades, because none of those kills came in fast enough or subsequently enough of each other for them to be considered as such. But I think the fact that NIP were quite heavily fortified on the site after the opening kill really helped, because it meant Black Dragons were trying to come in from lots of different angles. We didn't have a really solid upstairs attempt. You know, none of those floors were being open. There wasn't a lot of attention being paid to holding vertical angles or anything like that. We have players who are out towards the south of the map. No real pressure onto Laundry, coming in from different staircases, different directions. And I think that attempt to try and surround NIP fell back in Black Dragon's face, because even though they got a couple of kills, they weren't necessarily hugely impactful ones because they didn't follow up to anything. So when you've just got like one guy left at the end, I mean, you know, it's hard. It's hard to execute solo.
Two to two currently. Back to Aviator and Games Room we go. Again, we're seeing NIP go for this aggressive standpoint, this aggressive mirror from Statuary looking in. Julio going to attempt to C4. He's very well known for this C4. You regularly see him throw it on out, but I rarely see it get a kill, I'll be honest. And that's another one of those situations where it's not even going to deal any damage over onto Black Dragons, and you could almost be excused for thinking that Black Dragons were maybe waiting for that C4 to go off just because of how well known it is.
It's like a signature on
It is.
their playstyle. Oh well, doesn't matter too much. Perez, the first one to take some damage. That's what the French call damage, by the way. Psycho, however, is the first one to get a kill. Actually, Muzi to follow up too. So NIP getting a good early advantage here on their next AVG defense. They're going to move back towards the site, but Pino, once again, picked off as the first loss for NIP. Seems to be a bit of a pattern, but at least there's 4 of the defenders who are back ready in the site itself for when the attackers eventually meet them.
All the pace falls out of the round now as we re-enter the droning phase. That opening engagement hasn't gone in Black Dragon's favor. Again, it's the Ashe and the Iana that they've lost their entries. Typically, they're able to get a little bit more for them as well. Previously, we did see Resets and Perez dying, and but that time 2 kills were got for Black Dragons. They were able to also take down Muzi. This time, Muzi's been able to make his way back safe and sound. Ion is going to be on that 90 corridor. There is a deployable shield to try and work with, and well, when you've lost a lot of that shield destroying utility, it makes this quite difficult. It puts a lot of pressure onto Patoxy. He has only got 1 lifeline remaining, or 1 concussive, oh sorry, 1 impact lifeline remaining, so even still, isn't going to be able to do all too much.
I like that they're taking the time to drone, because even though they made it work for themselves back in round number 1, it's not something that you can just assume that you're going to have right, because, you know, Black Dragons struggled to attack in round 2 onto this very bomb site. They're spending a lot of time, knows the defender is over on the main stairs. Patoxy's into study. It's the one place from which they haven't attacked this site just yet. But with that kill onto Kamikaze, this could be the opening, getting in with the plant.
Well, the plant will be stopped briefly, as it seems as though everyone on the side of NIP knew what was going on. 1 second and 3 kills. Default plant spot to try and pre-fire onto. Again, a bit of a desperate round there from Black Dragons. They didn't manage to win the opening engagement, and that seems to be a big difference maker in terms of how the round will then go. And it's not necessarily that they're not just winning the engagement, it's what they lose in that process. They're losing the nades and they're losing the Ashe, and it is starting to cost them just a little bit.
Like, I'll be honest, so far, I mean, this is the first round that hasn't been directly alternating, because NIP have now won the last 2 consecutive rounds. However, it is entirely plausible that Black Dragons can take this next round and end the half on a 3-3. Coming to Trophy and Statuary, it was Black Dragons who won this round back in round 3. And, you know, part of it was, again, those very ballsy swings that these players were taking. But NIP had also set up a bunch of their utility actually down towards the south of the building, because they were perhaps anticipating a study side push. So remember, Psycho had to move the yokai drones, for example. And yes, he got a kill off the back of it, but it was still very 1v1-y over the entire course of the round. So I'd like to see that change. And I think that if NIP can keep up this discipline that they've had with, okay, person A gets a pick, we recall them, then we all play as a team, then that can be very hard for Black Dragons to fight in against, because the rounds that Black Dragons have lost have usually been because of that kind of setup.
Well, where is the opening engagement going to take place this time? Live going to be trying to drone out the player on the main stairs. Still plenty of NIP players spread throughout Aviator and Games Room. No one really feeling the need to move. There's a live ping on the player. Perez is going to go for the swing. Eventually lands his shot over onto Muzi. Body will disappear now though, Perez, so you're not going to be able to play that old trick. Gets exposed there as he eventually will be taken down by Psycho. Another EE1D coming in. Maybe a little bit too late there as Resets is going to fall as well. Pino happy and confident to just peek outside of the vault before he is in turn taken down. Ion, bit of a nuisance on that 90 repel window. Not a lot of reinforcements invested there. They've reinforced in between, which is a little bit curious. Julio forced into using his Toxic Babe canisters. Don't forget the site is Trophy and Statuary. And already there's so much been going on inside of Aviator and Games Room.
Psycho. Trying to keep off the drones for now. Julio could be about to find his prey, and he does. Straight onto Iron, who is entirely unaware of his position. But Live to get one back onto Kamikaze. It keeps it in a 2 versus 2. I don't think Psycho knows that there is an attacker directly behind this shield to his right. He's going to get taken by surprise, I think. That leaves just Julio. Doesn't last long, and Black Dragons do indeed even things out of the half. And Ollie, I think a huge part of that is because we didn't see NIP bring their defenders back. We didn't see them all playing together as a group after the early stages of the round. Instead, they all stayed very separate. They all played quite far apart, and Black Dragons were out and about and around to find prey where they could.
3 rounds on the attack for Black Dragons shows great coordination, especially with a squad that is new to stage 2. Obviously having 2 players that come in, Resets and Perez. So very commendable for them to be able to take 3 rounds and an even share of the rounds out of that first split. Good coordination as well, as we can see the E1Ds coming in with the drone work and the pre-fires. And as you say, why did NIP challenge that heavily? Julio used all 3 Toxic Babe canisters inside of games. It was... why? We will never know. But now the sides switch. And it's Black Dragon's turn to play the defense. Now, this is where they have to make the decision. Are they going to try and challenge aggressively out there on the roam? Or instead, are they going to give away a lot of that map control and map pressure? Because we know how formidable NIP can be on the attack here. An angle that we will probably see Pino sprint to initially is downstairs inside of Library. They really like to pressure vertically on this map, and particularly this site, which isn't something that we really saw Black Dragons taking too much advantage of, but it really is a big tool in the toolkit of NIP here.
I do enjoy seeing a Kali be brought, and to me that suggests that they want to be going for a study side push. Given that Thatcher has been banned out, you can use her gadget, the Lance? Is that what it's called? Is the Lance the name of the gun? I've never known.
I think the Lance is the gadget.
The Lance is the gadget. All right, well, you can use that to get rid of any kind of denial that's on the wall. The only denial the Black Dragons have brought is mute jammers. They're going to have to get rid of the Surya gates that are there, and you can see that they've been burned through.
Oh, hate to see it. Pino getting a bit unlucky there. He will be successful with his second attempt. But that's going to be it from the Lance. Now, Pino's already got himself into that position. Usually gets covered by Muzi downstairs on that 90. So Muzi's going to watch, and Pino is essentially just going to look up through the Library ceiling and find angles onto players up there. But we can see he's already being pressured horizontally as well, as there is going to be a live ping. Where is Muzi? Muzi is going to be lying ready and waiting. Those 2 as a duo, always successful in terms of this little pocket play that they like to bring out. And they're going to find an opening there on Perez, who really for a mute is maybe a bit out of position, especially because he didn't have a C4.
I mean, Psycho's being very patient here with trying to hold the angles in through the study wall, and that basically cuts the site in half. So it makes it very hard if you're a defender to rotate through that. And Muzi also down below, you know, looking to punish anybody who does try to use the space they have, and he's getting... What? Oh no, Patoxy. I was gonna say he's getting very close to catching out the ankles, but I suppose if someone's just gonna walk straight in next to you... Man, oh man. Not good.
Pino now going to be able to push up these main stairs. Likely going to find a chance as he gets pre-fired. Resets. He is able to take down Muzi as a big pinch and push is coming through. Study. Psycho actually grabs 2. Pino the last. We will get to see the final kill inside of the kill cam. The player on 90 there just getting taken out. NIP chipping away there at Black Dragons.
NIP had such a beautiful setup, you know, the way that they had the Kali cutting straight through the site, the way that they had Muzi down below holding the vertical angles. It basically meant that while they weren't directly and aggressively pushing onto the defenders, they just had them trapped like rats in a cage. And then, you know, there was the thing with Patoxy as well, which he was the rat that got away, but then got caught in the mousetrap, you know what I mean? So, NIP, I really, really like that attacking setup because they didn't force themselves onto anything. They didn't engage themselves in 1v1s or anything like that. They weren't pushing themselves into the territory of Black Dragons. They were just lying, waiting for them to encroach on their space, or the space that they had taken anyway. Regardless, it puts NIP in the lead for now. And once again, Black Dragons have decided to return back to Aviator Games. NIP, however, don't seem to have anticipated that. Either they have not anticipated it, or they have, but they've decided to bring something completely different anyway. Which would, I suppose, make sense, because the kind of setup that they had before, you know, if they brought those same operators, Black Dragons are going to know what they're trying to do, and kill them. So
I think it's probably a case that they feel like they maybe don't need the Kali as much. And that's given Psycho the flexibility to then move on to the Nomad and secure the flank a little bit better. Because Kali is, while viable, it isn't always necessary. You know, sure, we've got a couple of mute jammers to deal with, but with how proficient we see NIP be at working vertically, and the fact that Black Dragons haven't brought a Cade and they didn't bring Cade previously, it doesn't really, you know, make all too much of a difference. That second lifeline there from Pino is the lifeline to get rid of the mute jammer.
yeah, like, still holding that really long angle. They're just not doing it with a sniper. And Iron's playing very far forward. Muzi, his drone gets shot out, but that's still decent information that they've collected there. And I suspect that NIP are making a pretty big rotation here. Maybe looking to come in through the north side of the map. Now, this is maybe going to force Black Dragons to change the way that they're set up.
Kind of like the two different approaches there. We got Muzi two-hitting a barricade, and then we've got Julio with the LMG just tearing one down. And Muzi's like trying to sneak through all stealthy like, and you just got Julio who's like, yep, I'm going to be coming through this door at some point, and you better watch out.
That would be me. I would be the Julio. Tag yourself. Oh, Muzi!
Gathers the intel, at least.
Oh, I totally didn't realize it was
You thought that was real? You didn't realize it was the drone?
It's because I looked down at my notes and I looked up again.
Well, fortunately for Muzi, it was the Gemini. Oh, Pino, how has he been allowed to find two there? Recess just gets caught entirely flat-footed. Patoxy and Ion. The minute left are the last two, and this has just got NIP flawless written all over it, hasn't it? Pino moves on through, picks himself up a triple. Muzi, I reckon, Gio, that if he knew that you thought that that was him in for real and not the clone, he'd be a little bit upset with you.
Well, this is the thing. I was like, this is very out of character to just like run on red stairs and make that much noise. And there's barbed wire there and whatever. I was very confused. I mean, yeah, sure. That was a really dumb mistake from me. I like look down. I'm writing notes. I'm like, NIP.
It would have been a dumber mistake from Muzi if it was actually him.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So yeah, whatever. Black Dragons, thank God, are going to a different site. And sure, I don't blame them for trying the same site twice, but when NIP's attack onto AVG the first time was that good, I feel like going to a different site would have been the right call. But I don't know, I'm not the one.
You've got to start to try and change something, haven't you?
Yes. So, yeah, statuary trophy statuary. Well, NIP. What is it they're bringing along? So they've got one hard breacher in the form of Maverick. In a lot of cases, you would see a hard breacher be more of a long-range hard breacher to try and open up the statuary wall, but there's actually... Oh. So Kaid is the only form of denial on the side, so likely going to be... You can see resets setting up the electricals there. I shouldn't imagine that that's going to be a huge issue for NIP to get rid of. And again, you know, if they can actually get the statue wall open, I can see a very similar situation arising to what we had in round number 7, because we saw how much Black Dragons really suffered when NIP had direct line of sight straight through the center of the site. That's what's going to happen if they can get that wall open.
Pino going to get himself up onto the 90 rappel, waiting for his drone and getting that into position as well, seeing if there's a early advantage he can get. It's in fact going to be a hot breach as he's straight through. Obviously fairly confident about this. He's going to get a glimpse there of the Goyo. Pre-fires on through, but Ion with the swing, the Vector dishing the damage, that high fire rate, and straight onto the head of Pino. Very effective indeed. And that's just an example of the out-of-character aggression that we sometimes see from NIP that can cost them.
I mean, Pino had the information. He could see Iron. It's just, it was very slightly out of sync. Like, the shots he was taking were very slightly out of sync with where Iron actually was. He just didn't need to move that much. It's a pain for NIP, though, because it means that this kind of two-pronged attack that they were trying to set up no longer exists. Everybody else, as far as I can tell, is over on this side of the map. Psycho's trying to hold the Maverick hole. Julio, be careful. There's someone behind the desk.
We're going to send the Twitch drone in and gather that info. Still, NIP, they want to try and play this one fairly safely. They've got a minute, so there's enough time to try and work with. The Goyo has been exploded there as well. Psycho, he too is locked onto the player inside of Astronomy. Kamikaze going to be the next player to fall as Resets is able to deal with him. But Psycho, he's able to find that frag off the back of the information. Able to open up Astronomy somewhat. Pre-fires his way around and will find the kill. But no, gets greedy. Goes for the conversion. Didn't need to rush that final kill. Julio as well get caught out. Pushing through from Bathroom there into Astro. Black Dragons, importantly, keep NIP off that match point.
And it's that final kill is the kind that you look at and you wonder if Pino had survived his hop reach through into 90 and been able to hold control from that side, would that have ended up happening? Because you would have had far more pressure applied into Trophy. You know, and for quite a significant amount of time of that round, Black Dragons were holding on to both Astro and Trophy. And it's all well and good if you can push into Statuary, but one of the things about the geometry of that side is that you've got the skylight straight in the middle, so you can see directly over from one bomb site to the other. So it's not safe to just be able to make your way into the first one. You have to have control of the more distant rooms. Astro, Heads, Trophy, whatever it may be, and that is why the sort of attack that came in from the angle that Pino is going for is so important. So for Pino to have been taken down as early as he was, it meant that NIP lacked that kind of pressure that they otherwise could have benefited from, and maybe they would have found a win and put themselves on match point had that been the case. Now, it's all well and good to say, oh, well, if this person had survived, it would have been totally different. Because, yeah, we can say that about every single round. But to me, that was quite an important kill that Black Dragons got early that helped influence the outcome of that round.
Gio, do you know the last time that NIP lost Villa?
Well, it wasn't within the last few months, because I looked up. So it must have been pre-March.
19th of July, 2020.
Oh my god.
So, nearly a year. I've spent a long time looking for that. Maybe longer than I care to admit. But it is a point that is worth bringing up, that NIP haven't lost this map in a long time. Now, it could look like it's going that way, as we are seeing a couple of kills go in favor initially of Black Dragons. And I guess the one to sort of note is the Ion C4. He was actually able to take down Kamikaze there on a very similar C4 as to what Julio likes to throw out on this map.
They're showing NIP how to actually get a kill off of it. That's what it is. Muzi, once again, is surrounded from both sides. He knows where one is. There's a kill onto Perez. And now he can turn his attentions to what's going on behind him. But he takes a lot of damage for that one. Trying to back out. But straight back onto Psycho. Only 2 players left here for NIP. We're barely at the halfway mark. Come on.
Julio now on the Jackal with the Inox, able to get a track, but he's also giving himself away in the process. Deals a bit of damage in onto resets. Oh, but Toxie! Curiosity really does kill the cat there, as he just had to have a little bit of a peek. Still leaves his team in a 3 versus 1, so more than doable with a minute remaining. Julio's patience could be tested here, as he's got a choice. He could either get himself outside, have a little chat with the team, and use that minute, or he could try and clutch this one up. It looks as though he's going to go for the latter of those 2 options. That smoke grenade is going to get tossed out, try and give him a little bit of surety, but with no drones remaining, at least no useful ones, you can see everybody on the side of NIP is watching his cam, and they're all going to watch him swing into live. The Toxic Babe canister is going to cut off the access initially. Julio going to get taken down. 5 all here between these 2 teams. Potential Geo here for an overtime.
Oh, there certainly is. The problem is, if you are Black Dragons, unless you want to be going to Living Room Library, you have to go to AVG now. That is that site that they struggled twice in a row to defend. And NIP actually had a really good go of it both times. And in fact, the lineup that NIP are bringing here is different to both of the lineups that they went for but the lineups that they went for both of their attacks onto this site. So there's not going to be a Kali. They are not going to be bringing a Capital that they brought the next time. This time they're actually going in Ying. Ying is their 6th pick. They have the Hibana too, so they've got the long-range hard breach that they previously lacked. So even if Black Dragons have an idea of how to adapt based on how they were playing back in round 7 and 8, once again, they're going to be facing a new flavor of attack from NIP.
Lot of pressure inside of this round. I'm wondering who's going to get overtime first. I have asked production just to get a confirmation on that, but with overtime looming, you do feel like it's worth knowing which side is going to be on the defense or on the attack for those overtime rounds. So we'll get a bit of confirmation on that. Of course, we're not quite there just yet, but certainly with the way this game has gone so far, there really isn't a clear winner for my money between these 2 teams. NIP are showing themselves again to be human, and Black Dragons have really stepped themselves up to the occasion. Now, again, seeing those vertical angles be pressured, as Pino is going to be underneath inside the living room and library and looking to pressure onto those angles, as we regularly see him do. And it's just something that provides, it's a lot of utility to deploy, right? You know, you're using a lot, using your entire Zephyr just to hold these couple of angles, but the restrictions that it places on the site are huge.
Huge! Alright, I'll be serious.
Don't be serious on my part.
Oh. I won't be serious then.
Just be awkward instead? That's fine.
Sure. Sure. Alright, regardless, whatever. Pino. Letting them know about the shield. He's not pung it out, though. It's not been punged. It has been shot, though. I'm really self-conscious about your judgment. Oh, Perez!
Go for it.
You took tons of damage there. You got to be on the other side of the shield, mate. That'll be what it is. All right, well, he's not even going to be the first one to go down. Pino Ion, the trade straight back onto Muzi. Patoxi has collected 2 kills for himself just by defending at the other side of the map. This is something that NIP didn't have to face before. Finally, Kamikaze got the kill onto him before they really needed to secure the pinch. 3 versus 2. NIP haven't even brought out the Candelas yet. 3 sets of them still in pocket, and Psycho is just preparing, ensuring the area around the site is clear.
Ooh.
They're not going to get to use the Candelas at all. He's the next one to go down as Live catches him out, and it actually looks like the turns have tabled because Black Dragons are getting all the kills onto NIP at this point. It's just Kamikaze left.
Kamikaze is going to get cut off there by the Toxic Babe canister. Still one left here for Live, and a C4 in the hand of Resets. It starts to become a very difficult position to be in. Another Toxic Babe there. The final one going to cut off access to that games room door. Kamikaze does have a lot of utility left. He has loads of Excaros pellets, but he's not really in a position to use them. There's a shield to contend with as well, and a player behind said shield. C4 not even going to be required. Resets, he just pops himself up. That puts Black Dragons onto a match point here on Villa against NIP.
Dude, that is 3 in a row for Black Dragons as well. That is the highest consecutive number of rounds that have been taken in this game whatsoever. So, I mean, that's good. And it was a nice change from them in the way that they chose to defend that as well. I was actually really intrigued with how NIP were going to execute on this Ying. But I think they ended up having to deal too much with what Black Dragons were bringing for their defense. The defense was very much extended, far more than it has been previously on that site. So NIP having to go through and deal with a lot of that, and those opening kills backwards and forwards certainly didn't help. And while Psycho survived out a lot of it, didn't get to the point where he could actually use the Candelas. And I think after that, you know, it was so much easier for Black Dragons to just collapse on the remaining members of NIP. Kamikaze got gassed out, and he can really push forward. So the extended hold really threw NIP for a loop, I think.
Match point here for Black Dragons. Potential for NIP to bring this to an overtime, but no longer can they get the full 3 points out of this one, which when you're trying to make that sort of meteoric rise like they are and make up for that placement that they got inside of stage 1, by winning a lot of games and placing better inside of stage 2, it does make things a little bit more difficult. And we kind of gave the edge to NIP inside of this game, especially with the map, and we didn't write Black Dragons off, and I think maybe we could have credited Black Dragons with a couple more rounds than we did, because I certainly didn't expect them to reach the match point first. Chance here for them to shut it down here and now inside of this next 2.5 minutes, and well, if you're NIP, you're probably looking to play quite the serious round here. Julio, he's not going to take his finger off mouse one.
Hey,
he just pre-fires through.
He loves that thing.
How does he get Live? How does Live not move?
That's my impression of LMG. He is not the epitome of subtlety, but that's fine. We don't need him to be. Kamikaze can hop on through and get going with... Oh, no! Not for very long. As I say, get going with the blowtorch. He got a line in. That's something, at least. But immediately C4'd out from below. You can just see the Overwatch coming in from the master window now. Muzi looking to get a nade, but there's no one above him. There might have been some utility that we are unaware of.
It's really strange to see a Maverick be brought for this site. You never really see a Maverick try and open up that wall just because of how risky it really is.
It's the second time they've done it too.
It's just kind of strange, especially if you're not going to take good kitchen control. You do just leave yourself open. Now, NIP, they've got a bit of a tough task ahead of them here. They're trying to deal with the mirror windows and things of that nature, and they're trying to deal with it vertically. They do have a bit of intel as to what's going on the site, and they're going to know roughly where players are going to be. Julio likely going to try and fire out the player behind Astronomy Desk. Psycho looking to go for a bit of a swing. Will find one onto Ion. Perez falls as well. Resets and Patoxy. They are left to hold on here as there are 4 players on the side of NIP that are looking to flood toward them and make this a bit of a miserable time. Now, there is a line of sight in the main wall, but there isn't actually access. Patoxy takes down Julio, but Muzi picks the final 2 on up. Able to swing on in. Takes down Ion. Refires easy as he likes over onto Patoxy. Overtime confirmed here.
This is NIP's first overtime that they've come to, and actually, over the course of stage 2 so far, NIP's scorelines have become worse and worse. They have not had a loss yet, but with the 7-1s that they had on Playday 1, Playday 2, and then it was like a 7-3, then a 7-5, now heading into overtime. So it's the first time that they've come here. Could still win it out, of course, but it is their least dominant performance yet. Now, given what they're bringing out, looks like they're probably going to go for a similar kind of approach to this site that they did back in round number 7, which they won. Is once again the Kali that has been brought, but the Capitão too. So they actually replaced Kali with Capitão the following round. This time they've decided to provide a union of Capicali.
Let's see if Black Dragons can do better than Furia did last week. Furia did also take NIP to an overtime.
Oh, wait.
You can't forget my boy's Fury, Joe. I'm going to have to pull you out on it. I'm sorry. It was an 8-6.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But still, it's showing that NIP are sort of vulnerable to teams all over the standings. It's regardless of where they sit. You know, Siege is a game that really does rely on teams performing on the day, and Black Dragons have performed very well today. Surely could have tried to take it there and then in the previous round, but ultimately, NIP are that championship winning team, and they are that team that can dig in when required. But now they find themselves in that overtime again, and another opportunity to only get 2 points. But for Black Dragons, they can definitely hold their heads high regardless of how this round and this game finishes. But you got to know that they are going to be after a full 2 points now here. We see a much more tempered approach from both these sides.
Much more success in opening up the story gates to what they had last time means they can send these 2 nades straight in, likely remove the utility that's up at the top of main stairs. Wouldn't shock me if there had once been a shield there. You know, down below too. We saw these vertical angles be used really successfully by NIP. It was Muzi mostly who was responsible for them back in round 7. And he is still downstairs too. Pino's there mostly for utility removal with the lifelines. So far, main stairs is going to be a huge deterrent because of the Toxic Babe canister. But Pino can just wait. Uses the lifeline. Likely to remove a shield or something, but they haven't actually taken off the player from the space. That's going to be Muzi's job, but he can't land the shot. Live. Oh no! And Pino with the Toxic Babe canister too. What a total disaster for NIP.
Not an ideal situation at all for NIP to find themselves in. Julio kind of desperately deploys the remainder of his utility there. Still has a couple of smokes left. Kamikaze left really without much of an in. They can look to try and progress through. The smoke is going to cover the line of sight there. Psycho. He's going to be able to take down Live as he looks to push and aggress on up these main stairs. Maybe an interesting shot as the sniper, as you just don't really have that room to work with. Patoxy, he takes him down, instantly traded out by Kamikaze. Now Kamikaze can look to move on through with Julio, but still, 2 versus 3, 30 seconds. Julio can cut off the line of sight at the bottom of 90 and only really have the sight to worry about, but resets with the C4 is able to take down Julio. Kamikaze, he's going to have a rough idea as to where players are, but he's not got a lot of time, and he's got a laser gate to try and deal with. Nobody looking to give the game away, and he eventually gets peaked pretty much all at the same time as the 3 players from Black Dragons prove that, yes, they do in fact have a crossfire onto that location as well. That puts Black Dragons onto a match point.
Love a good crossfire, and love a good systematic bringing down of 2 of your major players. The fact that Muzi and Pino were so well set up to be able to take the main stairs control. I mean, it was the very first thing that NIP went for to try and set up that attack. They improved the way they brought down the surrogate from last time, threw in the nades. They wanted to clear out that space that Live was occupying. He wouldn't let go of main stairs whatsoever. And then Muzi couldn't see him through the gas. Pino got taken down by the gas, so he got stuck in it. And after that, not only have you lost Pino and Muzi, which is unfortunate, hugely, but you also don't have control of a part of the map that you were assuming that you would. That becomes very difficult, especially when it comes to that point that defenders can then set up crossfires that you kind of assume weren't going to be available, etc. So a disappointing round there for NIP, and as they head into their own defense on AVG, they are, of course, looking for things to be better, because the best that they can hope for here is an 8-7. Now, looking back at their AVG defenses that they had in the first half, the very first one, Black Dragons won. The next one, NIP won, and then the next one after that, NIP also won. So they have a better track record of defending this site, or winning a defense on this site, than they do of losing, but a couple of those rounds were actually quite close, so I don't think it's something that they can rest on their laurels with.
For me, Gio, it's this opening engagement. This is really where it is going to be decided, and it seems like a bold statement to put a lot and so much onto one opening engage, but the times that we've seen both Resets and Perez fall in that opening engagement, regardless of what they're able to get on the side of NIP, it has always been much more difficult. So let's see this round how it is all approached. Much slower already, as we've seen 40 seconds and still no real engagement. A lot of fact-finding still going on here. Perez will take down Pino. That's tick 1 in the box. Muzi, he's looking to rotate on out. He doesn't want any part of that. Instead, trying to sort of contest and challenge that. They're going to give it up. Psycho will come through with C4 from below as Julio just makes a few adjustments in the site.
Uzi backing off. This was one thing that I said about NIP. They're very good at knowing when to recall their players. Muzi's not going to stop being aggressive here on 90. He wants to retain the control, even though he's been droned out. Julio holding this position that he's had a number of the rounds that they've defended, just so that he can watch in for that entrance over by red stairs. Muzi needs to watch out for what's going on 90, because otherwise he's going to get caught out from behind. Kamikaze, we saw him get some excellent kills through the Maverick hole that was opened up by Black Dragons on the round that they tried to push in through Vault, but he's actually been forced out here.
Live has managed to shut down Psycho. The wall is going to start getting opened into Vault. Muzi looking to challenge onto that, but Muzi will fall as well. This could be it here for Black Dragons. Are they going to knock NIP off their winning pedestal here on this map? Julio has a chance, but keeps himself alive. Instead gets turned on by Resets, putting the pressure in from inside of that study doorway. And well, Kamikaze is the last man standing. 1 versus 3 here. What can he do? 35 seconds. He has 2 Toxic Babe canisters. The diffuser is in the hands of Live. Finds himself one. Tries to get away, but Resets comes in again. From the top of those red stairs, is able to find the final 2 kills required there for Black Dragons. Black Dragons here beat NIP on Villa.
NIP's very first loss of the stage, and to be honest, you see them all putting the GGs in chat, and Ollie, I would say that was a pretty GG. Like, that was a very, very well fought game on both sides. They had their rounds where they had their mistakes, but they also had some really good play all throughout that. Excellent adaptation, really, really tenacious battle, and I could have seen either of these two teams winning it, to be perfectly honest with you. If any game was going to go to